What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. This is episode 560. I am your host, Steve V, alongside Jeremy Ross Lopez. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm really good. How are you?
Doing really good. Back in NYC. I can't believe it. I've been doing the show for 3 weeks away, but it's glad to be back. Of course, rounding out our fabulous equation today on this Monday night before it drops on Tuesday is the lovely and talented Kodi Maurice Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darlings. I'm wonderful. It's so good to be with you guys tonight.
Likewise.
Yes, exactly. It's spring. We are in good moods. I love it. Well, I got home over the weekend and had to catch up on my drag race. So sorry for you guys out there that maybe don't watch. Also, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, although I don't know how you could because you go on any site and they gave it away. But I caught up, thank goodness, all yesterday. I think I had a day in and I was behind like 4 or 5 episodes. And so happy. Let's just get it out of the way. Nymphia Wynn won the title of Drag Race Queen for this season 16, correct, Kodi?
Yes. I believe
And
so.
in my mind, a couple things that I want to hear from you. The show, I thought the finale was excellent. It seems like RuPaul mixes it up every season a little bit. Like you never know how the judging is going to go. I feel like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Drag Race over there, Kodi.
I'm Googling. Yes, it's 16.
I feel like in past seasons the 3 finalists just showed up and maybe they did a walk or something, but RuPaul already made up their mind on who was going to be crowned the winner. And in this one, am I right on that?
They've done performances before to where they like do their individuals and then they do a lip sync for the crown. Sometimes it's lip sync between 4 contestants and they do like a battle where 2 lip sync first, 2 lip sync.
Okay, so then this isn't that. Go a little closer to your mic too, if you can.
Okay.
But
Yep.
I feel like the seasons that I've seen, it's been like she already made up her mind. And in this one, it seemed like the judges were, I don't remember the judges speaking up and giving their feedback on the final night of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
am I crazy
happened.
or?
That's definitely happened before. And from
Well,
the ones that
maybe
I know,
not the seasons that I've seen because it just,
Maybe.
well, whatever. I loved it for this reason, and I felt like it was judging up until the final bit. I don't know why I'm sticking to this because I feel like I've seen seasons where it wasn't that way, but whatever. I loved it so much, and I just think Nymphia has been my favorite really from the get-go. I loved all 3 of them, but I'm so glad she won, and I think she really remember I binged watched the last 4 in a row, and so I'm like up to date. That episode with the podcast where they had to tell their story and write a book from the cover to her story. I just think an Asian winner from Taiwan, I just love that. It just means so much. And I don't know, what did you think, Jeremy, of the winner, and what did you think of the finale?
So I really loved the whole entire thing, and I'm, on a side note, obsessed with Elvira and so happy that they awarded her.
Right.
And she looks incredible still.
Yes.
And I was rooting for Saphira to win, but then when I saw the final lip sync, I felt like Nymphia definitely took it and stole the show, and I loved her boba tea outfit to start and her 2 outfit changes, and I don't know, I just felt like she really deserved it in the end. And I think that one thing they mentioned was she saved all of her cards for the ending, and I think that was very strategic. Whether she meant to do that or not, it just seemed like at the end she really, really deserved to win it, and she brought her A game to, like, the last 3 episodes were really like showed her true colors and had like some of the best outfits. But I also love that a queen that really is in tune with fashion and like really, even though she has the banana shtick, she makes it so interesting every time. I really loved that aspect of her, and like the tie outfit that she did and the Grace Jones tribute that she did, and the Marie Antoinette, like she just had so many bomb amazing looks that every detail was never overlooked.
Absolutely. I love that. Kodi, what did you think of the finale and the win of Nymphia?
I I am generally not a big fan of the finales, maybe because it's just over and there's no more competing to be done after this. So the finales don't really do it for me a whole bunch, but I really enjoyed this one. I'm happy that Nymphia win. I think uh, RuPaul is notorious for deciding who the winner is throughout the season. She said in an interview before that Jinx Monsoon won her second season, her All Stars run, when she did so well in the snatch game because she absolutely murdered it, and she said that's when she won. So I think that you're correct in saying that RuPaul knew who was going to win going into the finale, because I feel like she makes up her mind during the season. So yeah, but I enjoyed it. I'm glad for Nymphia, first East Asian winner. So snaps to her.
Absolutely. I mean, they all did great. And I mean, all three of them are going to be winners. And this is such an amazing thing. Last thing I'll say, because I did do a marathon of it, the episode leading up to the finale, where the pit crew from Las Vegas came into town
Uh huh.
and they had to transform them into drag queens, was so epic for so many reasons. I had major crushes on all of the dancers. I was like, oh my God, which one? And then to hear their stories, which I think was so important, not just because they're so hot, but mainly because they had stories of themselves. About one was straight and he's been in this industry forever, and told his story on how his mom put him in dance class and he didn't want to go when he was a little kid, but that transformed him to wanting to pursue it. The one that Plain Jane got, that they called Lazy Susan,
So
was
funny.
so hilarious and beautiful. And I mean, beaming. And I just thought, to hear his story and how it related to Plain Jane's story about how they came from backgrounds where they didn't think that they were ever going to be able to come out, and to see how dance and drag were the answers for them, was really, I mean, you could learn a lot and come out of your shell in many ways, even if you are already out, just by watching Drag Race. So it's very positive, I have to say, and I loved the finale. I love a good finale because I love a good live show, and this was everything. And so just had to shout out to that, and yay. Staying a little bit on Drag Race is the favorite pit crew member for many people, Brazilian Bruno Alcantara. I'm sure many of you all know him. He's the sexy one who's been on, I since the beginning. Yes, am I right, Kodi, or early
No,
on?
I think he came in season 9. I can double check though,
But
because
definitely a fan favorite for
oh,
sure.
Bruno is everybody's crush. Okay,
Yes,
he is
exactly.
gorgeous.
He's also no stranger to the camera, and was just talking in a sort of TikTok style recently about a photo shoot he was on, where he had never experienced this, where the camera man actually asked him to place his dick down and position it a little bit more. And he said it was so interesting. In all the photo shoots he's done, he's never had anybody do that. And he was totally fine with it. And he put it down, and it was to make it look a little bit better. He said that the underwear he was wearing actually was a specific underwear that was going to accentuate his package a little bit more. And then by placing it in a certain way downward, it would even accentuate it even more. I know a little bit about that too. I'll talk about that in a second, but it prompted him in his social media post to say, where have you ever had an experience like this? Or where do you actually place your dick? And it's such a funny concept, but I think a lot of he's a lefty, by the way. And for the record, I've always positioned mine on the right. I think growing up, I didn't know what I was doing, and it was just always up. And then I started doing homoerotic modeling, and I walked in this Macy's Passport fashion show where it was the underwear segment, and we were told to place it down kind of in front because they didn't care if we showed a little bit. And so I've just naturally mine hangs to the right, and always that's just the natural direction. So, Jeremy, in honor of Bruno and his question, where do you place your dick?
I think mine's to the right also, but I don't really like strategically place it. I just think that that's where like the direction that it hangs, and it also depends on like the certain type of pants that I wear because I don't really wear underwear often, so
Ooh.
it's kind of just like wherever it goes by itself.
I like that. No, it's so funny too because I don't know that I thought about it too much before, but I do think about it. Lincoln, our other co-host, once said that he had a friend that he would go out with almost every weekend, and what would hold them up wasn't doing the hair or shaving. It was the placement of the dick, and
What?
that almost held them up for getting their drink on and going out because he had to have it in this perfect position,
Oh my
and it was
god.
this whole
That's
thing.
too
I
much.
don't spend that much. It's to the right. Of course, I choose if I'm going out and it's a fun, sexy night, I choose some of my favorite underwear that will help that out. I had once a friend walking down the street from the other direction. It was in the middle of the day, and he's like, dude, I can see your packages on the right. And they were tight jeans, mind you. But the fact that he could see that, I was like, really? Am I showing when I'm walking down the avenue? Okay,
Oh,
I'm
you
here
knew what you
for it.
was doing. Stop
I didn't
playing
know that it was
games.
really showing that much, but I was here for it. Kodi, I got to ask you, where has anyone ever asked you in a photo shoot or anywhere to place it in a certain way? And by the way, where do you place it?
So I am a huge proponent of making the most out of my package because I'm a grower, not a shower. So I always put mine down, and I think that when I was younger, I would put it up, and that was not the right way for me personally. And so the way that I learned to put it down was being a huge underwear aficionado and having this fetish even from when I was younger. And I would walk down the aisles in whatever department store I was in, and I would look at what they were wearing, the underwear that they were wearing, and I would see that they would put it down. So I was like, oh, I have to do this now because it really just highlights all the things that are going on down there, the twig and berries. So yeah, that's why.
I love it. I love it. And back to Drag Race. Actually, they were with that same episode where they were placing the guys in drag. I think it was Nymphia that was showing how to tuck, and that seems so painful too on how to
She was
actually
like,
tuck.
didn't she say that you have to wrap tape around your shaft? I was
Yes.
like, that's too much.
And
I can't do that.
that's definitely not, I think, the main way to do it. I think that you could I've seen drag queens do it before where you like put a tight brief on and
Uh-huh.
then you tape from the front and
Ah,
pull the crotch back, but you're not putting it skin like on the skin of your penis at all by any means.
Ugh.
It's
I
like
can't.
it's on fabric, so you're like pulling the fabric from the front back, but it's not like touching your dick whatsoever. It's just like pulling all of that whole area back. That was when I
Mm.
did drag once for Halloween.
Oh, wow,
I
you
want to see those
tucked. I love
pictures.
it. Okay.
Yes.
I
The
wore red bottoms, of course.
Yes,
Love
queen.
it. I love it. All right. Well, moving on, and we love a follow up, not this one necessarily. We were talking recently about the Heart nightclub in West Hollywood, about a man, sadly, that was brutally beaten. And I'm talking about Alberto Vasquez, who was a hairstylist to the stars. And he was coming out of the Heart nightclub and then found in an alleyway behind Heart nightclub, and no one knew. It seems like his family seemed like it was a gay beating, and turns out Alberto was actually in Heart nightclub that night, and it was a bouncer that actually they had a disagreement of some sort, and the bouncer punched him in the face, but punched him so hard, left him outside like that. And we've reported already that he's had to have brain surgery. He's barely starting to talk now, but it was like some serious shit. And
Wow.
Lance Bass, who actually was part of like I think he had put some money into the bar way back, said that just when I first joined Heart, my mission was clear: to foster a place where people could find safety, have a good time, and were able to truly be themselves. And it's incredibly distressing to realize that there are individuals who act without restraint or an ethical compass, posing potential threats to others. It's a stark reminder for us all to remain vigilant and ensure the safety of everyone in our communities. We really need to have each other's backs. My heart hurts for everyone involved. And fortunately, they were able to find this guy. They arrested him. And the other good news is Albert is speaking, as his family has mentioned in media. So, you know, Jeremy, you've worked in the club before here in New York, and you've seen when security can be a good thing. We talked about it recently on this show when you felt maybe in distress and you turned to look to a security guard. But can you imagine when a security guard actually, just because of an altercation, turns on a patron, beats him so hard to leave him in an alleyway?
No, I really can. I mean, that sounds really traumatic, and I think that it's sad working in that environment that someone would be where others think that they are in a safe space, and then that just happens and it ends up being one of the staff members. It's just really horrific and terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I've witnessed security guards in certain spaces, not the one we were talking about where you worked at the Eagle, but I've been to other spaces before where the hyper masculine, hyper testosterone driven, straight often security guards are taking their job maybe a little too seriously when someone's out of, you know, an argument ensues or maybe they've had too much to drink. Yes, I agree, get them out and you need to temper the situation. But I've been in situations before where I've witnessed security guards take it to an extreme that is really violent and awful and unnecessary. And I just think the bar owners, club owners that are hiring security need to vet these security guards a little bit better and make sure that they don't have some inner homophobic tendencies in them that are going to turn when something ensues like this. Kodi, what do you say to this?
Yeah, a lot of these security guards, they have I feel like it's a complex. I've actually fallen prey to it a couple times where they want people to respect their authority. So that part I kind of understand and I can see how they would think something like that, but there is no reason or situation to put your hands on somebody or to physically assault somebody to the extent that they would have to go to the hospital and all of these things that are transpiring would happen. My thoughts and prayers are going out to this person and their family, and I just think it's really a shame. So I really feel horrible about this.
Yeah, I do too. And Albert Vasquez, and we'll continue to report on him that he is speaking now and he's getting, I think, recovering from this horrible incident that we hope never happens again to anybody. Kodi, we got to talk about Kansas since that's where you're at because
That is not what I was expecting you to say.
we're staying on the bad news right now because we already mentioned. I know we go from Drag Race to see. I let you guys like with happiness, and then we go to the seriousness.
You lubed us up. You
I
lubed
lubed
us
you
up. So
up, and now we're getting into it because Kansas. We already talked about how you can't watch. It's coming that you might not be able to watch porn. You mentioned there was a site that you can't even get onto.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
now Kansas has passed a bill that will
Ugh.
require an identification to view LGBTQ content online. And we're not even talking about porn. We just mean LGBTQ content. LGBTQ organizations and others could be impacted. And the Democratic governor refused to veto the bill. Noted anti-LGBTQ bigot Chris Kobach will be in charge of enforcing it. And it's essentially anything that you go to that's LGBT will require like you to show your ID. Kodi,
Wow.
what is going?
Anything? Oh
Yes,
God.
it's if it's deemed LGBTQ, it you would require an ID up to show you are of a certain age, and I'm assuming the age is 18. But
Yeah.
wow, What do you got
That
to say
is
to you
too
about your
much.
state?
Don't do that. I'm still registered
Oh, I'm
in New
sorry. I
York
just
City.
figured you're representing now.
No. Let's get one thing straight. I am just here for a short amount of time. I'm not even here for a
I
good
was
time.
plain Janing your sister over there.
Of
Sorry,
course you
Sister.
are.
Sorry,
Yo, that is
sister.
whenever Plain Jane says sister, I'm like, ooh, the shits is coming because
I'm gonna
she is
start
a shady bitch.
adding that into the mix.
This is a really horrible. I just feel bad for all the LGBTQ plus kids that are here that are not gonna that are going to have to go through hoops and hurdles to actually have access or to really be able to see people like themselves on the internet, to maybe Google things about an LGBTQ plus center or something like of that nature. I need to get out of here because this is not something that should transpire. I can fully or more understand the porn sites and making sure that you are putting your information in there to prove that you're of a certain age before you go into a porn sites. I can see that line of thinking a little bit more, but to Google anything LGBTQ plus is wild to me. You can't even Google Bluey and their LGBTQ plus family. It's too much. I can't believe this. I might register here. No, this is a lie. In order for me to vote and to have this overturned, I might actually just contact the state senator or whoever here because it's too much.
And one of the other things you can do too, I mean, if you have the energy and time, but you can educate your family and those that you come in contact with that, hey, do you guys know what's going on in maybe they don't know because it's not breaking news, but it is news that affects our community, and they all have somebody they know and love, you, that is currently in their realm, literally, and they might just want to know this. I mean,
yeah, I have to ask my mom if she's registered here. That is something that I should probably find out.
Jeremy, when you hear this, you're in Massachusetts, which, it was the first years ago to let gay marriage be the ruling, and it was very impactful. I saw you over the weekend with your friend. I now know her with her children. How do you feel about them growing up in a state that is a little bit, in many ways, at least liberal, and how she's exposing her children to you and the community?
I think it's great because it's giving like kids that don't fit inside the norm hope for their like future, and I think that it's great to live in an environment where you feel safe and okay to be you and not be so judged and reprimanded and just have so many restrictions. And I mean, I think that what my best friend wants her kids to know is that it's not any different. She wants it to become a known thing and a norm that two men can be together, two women can be together, and anyone can be with who they want to be with. And I think that that is it sounds more simple than it actually ends up being to just everyone, but I
Right.
think that that's how children should be raised. And I think that when you are raised in that mindset and that environment, it helps you be less judgmental of race, ethnicity, and all of the groupings of people that there are that you will come in contact with moving forward in life.
Yeah, I mean, restricting these things that are not, we're not talking adult content, just acting like they don't exist, banning books is not presenting like we exist, people, and there are major positive things that the LGBTQ plus community offer to society, and to make it seem like you can't learn about this until you're of age sends a huge message. It's very Midwest thinking, sadly. And Kodi, yes, I agree, you got to get out of there. Last week, April 18th, I didn't know this, marked National Anal Sex Day.
Ooh.
And what was started as a joke from comedian Jim Jeffries caught on and made its mark. And it was created as a male response to St. Valentine's Day, where men are more commonly responsible for spending a lot of money and taking care of things, according to him. Jeffries thought men deserved a whole day, HOLE, where they get to sit back and enjoy. Since anal pleasure can be enjoyed by men and women alike, the idea was caught on and a day to celebrate was assigned, April 18th. And this article really talked about how you can just be prepared and enjoy it, and even mentioned our good doctor, Dr. Evan Goldstein. But
Ooh.
in a separate article I was reading recently, there is a guy that's really caught on YouTube, and I'm talking about Alex Hall. He is a sexpert and really has a very popular page called the Bottoms Digest. He gives all kinds of fun tips for bottoms on diet, how you can still have coffee bottoms and get fucked later that day. And instead of thinking of bottoming as you can't enjoy anything because he makes it fun and gives you really good tips on being a bottom. And so we salute that day. But one of the things he was talking about was eating ass, and I was really taken by what he had to say, because he says a lot of us aren't doing it right.
What?
Many of us go right for the ass with our tongue. And like everything, there has to be some foreplay, is what he says. And often start with your finger first, like prep the hole and get that ready. Now, if you're somebody like Tantric Fitness, Will of Tantric Fitness, who's been on our show, he prepares before he's going to be bottoming. I take this also seriously myself. If I know I'm going to bottom, I often will pre-lube and prepare my hole and open the muscle up before I even see the top. This is when I have time, obviously. But with what he is saying, what our good sexpert is actually saying is that we're doing it all wrong. Use your fingers first and play around with the hole first. Don't just go deep dive. And he says instead of lizard tongue, use a flat tongue because it feels much better. And so many of you guys are using that lizard tongue that really isn't pleasurable. It's not doing any good. He says use a flat tongue. And I got to ask the ass man, the man that loves ass, Jeremy, when you're eating an ass, do you have a foreplay in mind? Do you use a flat tongue? What's your method to this major madness?
I think I don't think about it so much as in like which direction my tongue's going and everything. I think that you can read the room and you can see how you're pleasuring someone, and when you're doing it right, you know that you're doing it right. And I think that the reaction from the person that you're eating out is definitely like what turns you on more and gets you going more. And I think like for me specifically, I like to throw like biting and spanking into it, and so it's not just all tongue. And I do agree with him, like using some fingers and stuff like that makes it a lot more pleasurable. And yeah, that's what I would say.
You definitely hit the nail on the head when you said you mix it up a lot, because that's the thing he says is one of the keys. Change up the speed, mix up what you do. It can get tiring too. So you want to, rinse and repeat, and sucking on it gently at first. Creating a rhythm is another thing that he says too, because that can only build up the excitement and the intensity of it. When you hear this, Kodi, what are your thoughts? Do you have a technique that you wanted to share with us?
Well, definitely. I warm up the up the anal region a little bit before I get back there, and just make sure everything is feeling good and that everything is like cleaned down there. I was trying to think of another way to
Kosher.
say it.
I mean,
Everything is kosher in that department.
yes.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yes. So then after you do that, you move to the anal area, and then you are feeling around and you're getting in there. I like to vary where I'm actually licking. I'm just gonna go straight for it now. I'm trying to be good, but no. When you're licking, I lick like the sides of the butt cheeks, not the outsides, but the inner sides around the anal area. I love to pleasure that area because I think it's really sensitive and it's often very neglected. Also, if I'm feeling really frisky and I know that I'm going to eat some ass and that's my main goal, I like to put some ice in my mouth before I eat the ass, because when you put your tongue, like a cold, chilled tongue, onto the anal area, it's a whole nother experience. You can do that for sucking dick too.
Really?
Yes, yes. It's a lot of
So
fun.
get that bucket of ice, bitches.
It's a
I
good
mean,
time.
wow.
I haven't done it in a minute either, so now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, ooh, whose butt is getting the ice treatment right now?
Someone in Kansas.
Thank you. Oh my
I don't know if they
God.
deserve it voting for that bill. Oh, that makes me so angry.
Good tips and tricks. I love it. Let's move on to the gay bar scene and going out in general. There was a recent article that caught my view by Jude Kramer asking the question, how can we keep gay bars gay? I say, do we want to? It's interesting. It went viral because somebody asked the question on Twitter at DG Shell, broke down the process he seems time and time again, saying the evolution of the LGBTQ spaces. 1, queer people make space for themselves. 2, venue gets popular. 3, straight cis women start coming as safe, fun space. 4, straight cis men show up to hit on women. 5, LGBTQ folks get pushed out of space, no longer feeling safe. And lastly, 6, LGBTQ stop returning, lose the space. Well, it got a lot of traction, and that's why the article was written. And many people said, well, maybe we need to go back to the earlier times of when we put porn on the TVs, and that would maybe be too much for some of our straight counterparts and would keep them out. I don't know if it would actually, to be honest, in question to that, because I was recently, and I know I talk about it a lot, but it's my example of choice, the New York Eagle, which actually used to show a lot more gay porn. I think they still do. But there was a group of women that had come in, and there was an area on the second floor where some fun can happen. They were parading in there like it was the New York March and happy to see what they could see. I don't really get too bothered by this that
What?
much. I know they were. I mean, I thought it was a little bit much. Like, really, it's great to, like, I brought in my sister to the Eagle before. She doesn't go in these spaces because she's like, yeah, they don't want me in there. I don't want to be in there. You know, I said more power to you if you got to go, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do. So I don't really have a problem with it. I just think it's evolution, and we can't go back in time to the 70s where it's evolution. But Jeremy, when you hear this, do you get mad when you see too many? Do you think we're losing our gay spaces?
So I don't think we're losing them necessarily, but I do think at the same time people are getting more comfortable with being in our gay spaces with us and not being gay. So I don't necessarily think that sex on the screens would change that, and it really doesn't bother me whatsoever, but the only situations and scenarios that I remember from my past and working at the Eagle was when girls like group together and like point and laugh at like guys sucking each other off, or just like
Yes.
making a spectacle of something is
Yes.
very different than just standing and watching. So like I think that if they were just standing there and watching, I think that that's really harmless, and it might actually turn them on, and that's totally fine. But the second that you make other people feel uncomfortable in a space that they feel comfortable in, I think that's where it gets annoying. And then you're like thinking of all women as the same, which they're definitely not, especially in those spaces, because I've hung out with your sister before and my best friend and brought them to those spaces, and they can inhabit them and be totally calm, collected, and like relaxed,
Have a
and
good time.
yeah, and not awkward and not make it a thing. But then there's definitely the other spectrum of women that like make it ridiculous and are like, oh my God, what's that? And like, what are they doing? And like
Screeching.
and pointing at the porn and like yelling. And that is definitely really annoying. And that's the whole vibe that I'm not here for. So I don't think that we're losing the spaces. I just think that also whoever brings the women or whoever into those spaces needs to reprimand them or let them know that they should like calm down and cool it when they're in an environment that is new or exciting or I don't know, just not what they normally hang out in.
I agree with you. I'm kind of on the fence with it too. I mean, I really don't care that much. In many spaces that are LGBTQ plus, it's like or gay bars they a lot of them these days don't even have a sexual vibe in my opinion, and in those spaces it's like have at it, who cares? It's like there's not a lot of sex vibe going on in my opinion, and it's like bring anybody you want to. There's other spaces that we inhabit that are a little bit more cruisier or sexual in nature, and those like we talked about, I could still bring some of my friends to them, but then you might want to be like, just so you know, the space is a little bit more sex positive, and there's going to be some things happening. And those are the ones that I agree with exactly what you just stated, not worth mentioning, and know what you're walking into. Kodi, what do you say to this?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. At the end of the day, it's all about being an adult and knowing what type of space you're going to come into and where you're going and respecting the people there, because it's at the end of the day, it is our safe space. It's not yours. Lady, if you want to go laugh at somebody's uh penis, go laugh at your husband's small penis, because this is our space and you can't come in here and shame me for who I am and what I am doing. So that really infuriated me when you said that some girls were laughing at somebody in a place that is not necessarily for them, because those clubs are for us. I was talking to a girl that lives here and she said, "Yeah, I don't like to go to the gay club. There are too many straight guys there." And
Oh.
I was flabbergasted. I was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do here? I can't even go to the gay bar and look at gay guys. I have to look at straight guys too. This is just ridiculous." So we do lose spaces that way, unfortunately. But I love girls. Come to a non-sexual place with me, because we can kiki.
Yeah, I was at another. Let me mention another bar so everyone doesn't think I just go to the same bar time and time again. Over the week, over the weekend, I went to Duplex, which is a piano bar, and then upstairs is club. Not club. It's a tiny little bar that plays video music. And my friend and I met this guy who was straight actually, and but he said, "You have the most amazing skin." I said, "Thank you so much. I will take
That's
that
how you get you.
compliment."
I
Yeah.
love it.
I was like, a straight man noticed my skin. Okay, I love that. So, yay. Anyway, let's stay in bars and clubs for a second, because as we approach Pride season, gays have come to the shocking realization that we all spend our nights doing this same thing. Where you at? WYA. Where you at? It gets into the group chat as the night starts bopping and everyone's on the dance floor talking to their friends, maybe a little intoxicated. You stop staring into the nightclub abyss and you look around and suddenly you're alone. Where's your group at? The responses all come in immediately over the next hour, like at the bar, upstairs, you neat the back, near the back, find. With Pride season, like I said, coming, the queer nightlife is starting up again. And earlier this week, they had a conversation about this on, what are people saying at 2, 3 in the morning, and the proclamation resonated with hundreds of gays weighing in, saying things like, we don't know where Ryan went, but we know where Ryan we don't know where Ryan went, but we know where Ryan went, is the statement, right? That all popped in. Have you ever, I've been in, again, back to the Eagle, here I am again, where it's 3 floors, often sometimes 4 floors. I guess the rooftop? No, 3 floors. Okay, let's not get crazy. And where people will ask me, I went recently with some newbies to the Eagle after I had hung out with them, and I kind of didn't respond to my text when they asked where you at because I was having a little bit of fun. I'm like, I kind of hung out with them all night. It's like you'll be fine. And they were fine, and but they were where you're at. Like, and then seemingly a little miffed. Kodi, have you succumbed to the where you're at in the bar in the club?
Oh yeah, all the time. I think I've done it a couple times with you because we go our we go our separate ways and we do what we do. I mean, we're both grown adults, and I'll hit you up. I'll be like, "Where you at?" And you'll eventually text me back and say where you are, and we hook back up. I think it's commonplace, especially in the gay community. I feel like we are prone to not necessarily sticking to each other's sides like glue, and we go out and we like to be social butterflies, generally speaking. So it's something that I've definitely had to grow into, because for my friends leaving me in the club and me being the only person, and I feel like I had to evolve that skill in order to be able to go out and just have fun with myself or meet other people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you've spent a good amount of time with your friends and you're bar hopping, or you've been, you set the night up that you're going to hang out with your friends, and maybe you went to eat, and then you went to more of a communal bar where you all were having, and then you end up at a third spot that's more club like. If somebody like Ryan runs off, I think I'm Ryan. I,
You're definitely
I'm
Ryan.
a Ryan, and I don't think it should be that big of a deal. Jeremy, we have a mutual friend that at one point got a little testy with me because I was a Ryan. He's like not happy with the fact that I left the scene, but we had already been hanging out all night. Do you get mad at
Mhm.
this kind of stuff? Or am I in the wrong? Or was Ryan in the wrong?
I don't get mad at all, and I could really care less. I mean, it's the setting for it,
That's why
so
we
it's
love you.
like if you want to walk around and meet new people, I really am not bothered by it whatsoever. And usually, I'm the friend that finds a spot and will be in that spot for most of the night. And then if I migrate to another spot, that's where I've decided I'm staying. So like you can always reconnect with me in that same spot or vicinity. I'm not the friend that wants to graze all over the whole place and do lots of laps and stuff like that. It's just never been my thing. But power to you if you want to meet tons of people and like go back and forth. I'm totally cool with that. And like I said, I usually am still back in the same spot that I was from the start.
You're notorious, and that's amazing. And we can rely on you
Yeah.
as opposed to Ryan over here.
Or me,
Uh,
because I'm just nosy, I think, because Jeremy was talking. I was like, no, I want to see what's going on. I need to know what's happening in every corner of the bar. So that's why I walk around.
It reminds me of this time, Jeremy. We were in LA, and a group of us went to this actually after hours sex club. And it was, oh my God, I think it's no longer, sadly, so it's no worth mentioning the name anymore, but it was several of floors and a kind of a maze. And we brought somebody that was kind of new to exploring their sexuality. And I don't know if you remember, Jeremy, but we
I think
went.
that was the night I actually stayed in.
I thought you went with us though, and
No, I
maybe
didn't
you
go that night,
didn't.
but I remember exactly who you're talking about and the situation, but I definitely didn't go that night.
Well, one of the things that we did do that night was we set like an hour meetup for every hour. We're like, okay, give me an
Yeah,
hour.
like a
Let's meet at this
check-in.
check in. And that worked really well in those types of spaces so that, you know, everyone's okay, good. And then we decided we wanted to do another hour, and then we went another round of it. Of course, I wanted to do a third hour and no one wanted to, but we wrapped it up and it was all good. That's another good method. Just some tips and tricks from your good old host over here. Lastly, we love to give advice on this show, and you can always ask us for relationship and sex advice. We'll give our DM handles at the end of the show, or you could always go to Tags Podcast and email us via the site. Well, on a recent Reddit, somebody wrote choking during hookups. And here's what they had to say. I'm recently out of a monogamous 10-year relationship, and I hooked up with a guy last week. Something isn't sitting right. I was mid-fuck, and dude started to choke me. Not hard enough to obstruct my airways, but firm enough to catch me off guard. I've seen this a lot in porn and totally get it's a kink, but is choking during sex now such a given that I need to convey up front with guys that I do not want to be choked? Or did I just hook up with an asshole? Edited, he added this. We had the basic what are you into convo before, but he didn't bring any kinks up like this. And it sounds like I may need to normalize vocaling my not intos as well. I don't know. Choking, well, I think it's so hot and can be, I think with a hookup, grabbing somebody around the neck could be like you might like, oh shoot, is this like am I being murdered right now? Like, I watch a lot of these Datelines all the time, and is
You
this
would have a field day.
I would
You
have
watch
a
so many murder mysteries.
exactly. I would go there, and so I just think that should be part of the conversation. I mean, Kodi, what do you think? First of all, do you like choking, and do you think that where do you weigh in on this?
So when you first started telling the story and you said choking, I was like, "Ooh, that sounds hot." I am definitely a choker. I love it. I think it's something that heightens the sexual experience. Maybe I'm more of a dominant person when it comes to sex, so I definitely like to do the choking. I've been choked before, so either way, I think it's really fun. But you have to know how to do it. So that's where I feel that it comes into play that you have a familiarity with the person or that you have discussed it prior to hooking up, because if somebody doesn't know how to choke you properly, then bad things can happen. So I think that that's definitely a conversation you should have before you actually get into choking somebody. And again, like you said, you can scare the person. You might get hit if you start choking somebody out of the blue.
Absolutely. I mean, we are all a little bit on high alert these days with the amounts of violence going on in the community. And, when you hook up with somebody, you don't really know them. I mean, let's just be honest. And so somebody grabbing your neck, your breathing mechanism like that can be jolting, alarming. And you're right. If they don't know what they're doing, could really cause some serious harm. Jeremy, are you into choking? And what's your advice for this?
I haven't ever really done it before, but I wouldn't say never. So I think I've seen it in porn and stuff and it looks hot, but I definitely think like Kodi said, it helps to be on the same page and know that that's something that someone's going to receive well and not just wing it, especially with the hookup of someone that you don't know. And I mean, it crosses a certain boundary if that's totally something that you're not into. So I think it's great to communicate with someone before doing it. And I don't think that it's outside of the norm for this guy to not be like into it, because it also sounds like he hasn't ever had it happen before. So I think it's definitely something that the guy that is into it should have discussed with him beforehand. And I think that also the gesture of just like pushing someone's arm away when they do it, if you're mid sex, is like more norm and should be something that you're able to do, just so that the person understands it's not something that you want or something that you're receiving right at that time.
Yeah, I agree. And I like it actually, but I think it needs to be discussed with a hookup. And I think I might use my OnlyFans for an upcoming reshoot with a guy that I shot with in San Francisco that was really hot, your daddy, Kane, who's in the Baloney San Francisco show. And we definitely want to collab again at the end of June. And maybe we'll do a little like PSA, like, or create a little scene, whereas if we walked in and met each other and then we have that conversation before we get into it, just to kind of show like to audiences that you can do this, but you got to talk about this stuff. And it'll be a little PSA statement to the audience, and then they'll learn for themselves. Who knows? But
Love it. Educate the
yeah,
kids.
educate the kids on OnlyFans. I love it. Okay. You can always follow. This has been great, guys. So much fun. You can always follow my co host. You can follow Jeremy on Instagram at @JRossLopez. Follow Kodi. He's a life coach at KMD Coaching, or his personal account at Mr. Maurice. Don't forget to download his single, Talk About It, wherever you get your music. So good. Follow me on the gram. I am _Steve V, or go to my Twitter account where you get a preview of both my Just for Fans and OnlyFans, and that is at TAGSPodcast. Really easy to get it. So much fun. We're live this Wednesday with Tags Live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And thanks guys. So much fun.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Babe.
In the meantime, continue having
hot
gay sex.